15th August. Please listen to this at 2x speed and we'll cover the editorials in the Hindu Business Line. B School Blues, center right in clawing back its powers over IIMs. Now, the Indian Institute of Management Bill 2023 aims to restore government's involvement in the governance of India's top management institutes. Reversing the changes made in 2017, the bill seeks to address issues arising from a lack of checks and balances post 2017, which led to conflicts between faculty and administrators. The IIM had gained significant reputation comparable to the IITs, yet faced criticism for their internal governance. The amendment bill allows the government or visitor, that is the President of India, to appoint the chairperson, approve the director's appointment, and conduct inquiries into institute affairs. However, concern exists about the provisions allowing the visitor to terminate the director's services without the board's involvement. The bill maintains limited government representation on the board and lacks transparency in the alumni member selection. Balancing autonomy and external control is essential uh, to ensure the IIM's continued success. Similar to how IITs have managed their autonomy in admissions, syllabi, and faculty recruitment. The critical aspect of this of the Indian Institute Management Amendment Bill 2023, as outlined in the provided text, include one, restoration of government involvement. That is, the bill aims to bring back government influence in the governance of top management institutes, reversing changes made in 2017. Now, this shift is considered essential to address the breakdown in checks and balances that occurred after 2017, leading to conflicts and chaos within the IIMs. Appointment and Oversight Authority. The bill empowers the government or the visitors, the President of India, to directly appoint the chairperson, approving the director's appointment and conduct inquiries into the functioning of the institutes. This seeks to ensure greater accountability and transparency in the decision-making process. Third is issue, which is after post 2017. The bill addresses concern that arose after 2017, where a lack of proper checks and balance led to confrontation between the faculty and administrator. This negatively affected the overall functioning of the IIMs and raised question about their governance. The fourth is the IIM's reputation. The IIMs, particularly those established earlier, have gained a significant reputation comparable to the Indian Institute of Technologies. However, their internal governance issues have raised doubts about their credibility, particularly when they are known for teaching best governance practices to aspiring corporate leaders. Fifth, limited government representation. Now, while the bill allows for government's involvement in key appointments and inquiries, the overall government representation on the board remains limited. Now, this raises questions about the balance between external control and institutional autonomy. Transparency and accountability. The bill raises concerns about transparency in the selection of alumni members and the absence of audits for the performance of the board. The lack of detailed accounts on institute operating submitted by most IIMs under the 2017 law suggests a need for more accountability. Seventh, autonomy versus external controls. Now, this bill brings up the debate about the delicate balance between institutional autonomy and external control. It draws attention to the autonomy enjoyed by institutes like IITs and IIMs, especially in matters like admission, curriculum, and faculty recruitment, and emphasize the need to maintain this balance while addressing governance issues. Future implication, the text hints at the possibility that bureaucracy's involvement could shift control from internal stakeholders to government in New Delhi. It underscores that IIM's success relies on government's willingness to avoid excessive interference in their affairs. Overall, the critical aspect of the bill center around restoring accountability, transparency, and a balance between autonomy and external control without the IIMs to ensure their continued effectiveness and reputation. So one can read more in details from this. Next article, why pursue a zero revenue deficit goal? And a single-minded pursuit of this target, accompanied by a mindless transition to capex, can hurt the poor. It's also an interesting article by Lekha Chakraborty. Let's go through it. So, the post-pandemic fiscal strategy is focusing on the golden rule of targeting zero revenue deficit as a key principle of fiscal discipline. This rule implies that revenue receipts should guide revenue expenditure design, with borrowings allocated mainly for capital spending. However, strictly adhering to this rule during times of crisis can hinder human capital development and economic growth. While striving for zero revenue deficit is welcome, it should be achieved through increased tax revenue rather than expenditure cut. Compression of revenue spending, particularly related to essential programs like job guarantee, education, health, and social security, in pursuit of zero revenue deficit could lead to a humanitarian crisis and wider inequalities in the post-pandemic era. Volatile revenue and intergovernmental transfers from the center to the states further affect fiscal space. Cooperative federalism and fiscal rules must align with energy transition goals, considering COP27 commitments. The classification of budgetary transition into revenue and capital, developmental and non-developmental, is being questioned. Uh, Effective revenue deficit is suggested to address concerns about capital creating revenue expenditure. Shifting focus to capital expenditures while neglecting revenue expenditure might be detrimental. The efficiency of public spending, especially is in social infrastructure like health, education, is a crucial for budget credibility. Now, while deviations between budget estimates and actual spending can erode credibility, issues in social sector spending implementation require course correction, and despite implementation challenges, allocation to merit goods like education and health should not be decreased as they benefit lower income groups. Various deficit measurement like revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, and primary deficit have evolved to consider specific purposes. The concept of public sector borrowing, PSBR, measuring the real macroeconomic gap is seen as more ideal than fiscal or revenue deficit. Rethinking fiscal rules, including aiming for zero revenue deficit, needs to be considered within the complex framework of Indian public finance. That's mostly the summary of this article. One can read through this one and understand. Next is auditor resignation prevention is better than cure, and regulatory and process tweaks are needed to avoid sudden resignation by auditor or independent directors. Um, this article says about the recent high-profile resignation of auditors and independent directors from companies like Adani Port and Byju's. They have drawn attention to the issue of declining communication and trust between management and these professionals. The resignation often stem from reasons like disagreement over transactions, delay in submitting financial statements, or personal reason. These instances underscore the need for a deeper analysis of the causes and consequences of such resignation. Similar trends are observed in ID resignation, causes concern for both existing and potential IDs, which is the independent directors. Regulations require incoming auditors and independent directors to seek a no objection from their predecessor and explain reason for resignation, respectively. However, reasons such as personal or health reasons are often used as a cover. The root cause appears to be lack of inadequate interaction between the promoters and auditors, promoter or management, and auditors and IDs. Time that was once spent discussing matters with auditors and independent directors is now dedicated to engaging with investors and customers. That's increasing compliance requirements and regulatory pressures have shifted management priority, leading to transactional relationship rather than meaningful engagement. The result is abrupt resignations, leading to disruptions when new appointees step in. Auditors might also be overburdened with multiple assignments, hindering effective communication and timely resolution of issues. Complex transactions are being discussed via digital platform rather than in-person meetings, potentially compromising the thoroughness of discussions. To address these challenges, a proactive approach is needed. Focusing on prevention is crucial, while communication playing a pivotal role is in building trust. Independent working group could analyze recent cases of resignation and propose preventive measures. One potential solution is to establish regulations that provide protection to auditors and independent directors for a set period, minimizing disruptions caused by resignation. The goal should be to make resignations exceptional rather than routine. In summary, the trend of prominent resignations amongst auditors and independent directors highlight the importance of communication, trust, and preventive measures. Protecting these professionals through regulatory frameworks and fostering strong relationships with management could help reduce the frequency of such disruptions, ensuring smoother functioning and sustainable growth for companies. This is the solution that we have. Then there's interesting article on retirement planning. Before that, green bonds. Green bonds should catalyze public transport, and channeling green bond fund to modernize state road transport corporation can go a long way in reducing emission. Yes, one can go through this article. Major takeaways from the article. One is the rise of green bonds. The issuance of green bonds has seen a significant increase, especially in the advanced countries, driven by green bond principles. Issuance has grown from under 50 billion in 2014 to around 600 billion in 2022, with about 97% of total sustainable funds held in high-income countries. Global demand for green bonds. The popularity of bonds based on sustainability principles has led to a global demand for green bonds. Multilateral development banks and countries like China and India have been adopting these bonds for funding. Role of green bond in developing countries. Now, developing countries face challenge in financing, especially for essential services like public transport. Governments can explore issuing green bond to modernize state road transport corporations and contribute to reducing carbon emissions. Importance of public transport. Now, public transport plays a crucial role in reducing carbon emissions, benefiting populous countries like India. Investments in modernizing of transport corporations can contribute to sustainable development goals. Lessons from Singapore and China. Now, here. Singapore's urban transportation policy promotes public over private transport through high taxes on private vehicles. China's use of green bond for urban transportation and integration with its 5-year plan highlights effective environmental policies. China's focus on urban transportation. Now, China has been at the forefront of green bond issuance, particularly in the field of urban transportation. The integration of green projects into China's government plans and effort to lower carbon emissions exemplify their commitment. India's need for sustainable transport planning, that India should prioritize sustainable transport planning and consider issuing green bond for modernizing public transport. Aligning transport planning with sustainable development goals is crucial. Now, in conclusion, the rise of green bond presents an opportunity for countries to finance critical sector like public transport while contributing to environmental goals. Learning from successful examples like Singapore and China, India can prioritize sustainable transport planning to address economic, environmental, and social challenges. That's the article. Finally, last article on retirement planning, nuclear families, longevity, making it complex. Now, India's in the paradox of choices revolves around two decision-making style, which is the maximizer versus and satisfier. Uh, oh, sorry, before that. India's changing demographic are posing significant challenges to traditional retirement planning. The country's growing population, aging society, expensive healthcare, rising living costs, and changing family dynamics have made retirement planning a critical concern. The weakness in India's pension scheme are attributed to the informal sector's prevalence and the shift towards nuclear families. Most of India's workforce operates in the informal sector, lacking pension provision. The shift to nuclear families intensifies the retirement planning issue, as historically, joint families support older members. Longer life expectancy in India further challenges presents challenges of longevity risk, where people may outlive their retirement saving, necessitating careful financial planning. The rising cost of healthcare and living expense further complicates retirement planning. Now, financial literacy is crucial, and although India has a social security measure like National Pension Scheme and the Employee Provident Fund organization, their reach and effectiveness needs improvement. Bridging the fiscal gap and ensuring adequate pension provision for all citizens require proactive policies. India's changing demographics also have economic implications. The shrinking working age population pressures economic productivity and sustainability. To address these challenges, India needs to invest in skill development, promote lifelong learning, and create an environment for active aging, allowing retirees to continue contributing to the economy. Yeah. And then the paradox of choices, good enough is perfect. Yeah. By M. Geeta and Irfan Shamim. The paradox of choices revolves around two decision-making styles, the maximizers and the satisfiers. Maximizers meticulously analyze every aspect before making a decision, while satisfiers rely on spontaneity and gut feeling. Surprisingly, studies show that satisfiers tend to be happier, less stressed, and more content in life compared to maximizer. This is because satisfiers avoid overthinking and regret, benefiting from quicker, stress-free choices. Now, for instance, in shopping scenarios, maximizers spend extensive time comparing products and reading reviews, leading to stress and delay while satisfiers make swift decisions in culinary experiences. Maximizers may invest considerable effort in cooking and the perfect dish, while satisfiers opt for simpler, quicker option. The article suggests that embracing the satisfier mindset for opting for good enough decision can lead to a happier and stress-free life, especially in a world overwhelmed by choices. As Indian markets continue to expand, the lessons of contentment and satisfactory choices becomes increasingly relevant.